The afternoon was calm, the sun filtering through the leaves in golden slants that danced across the quiet suburban streets. But within the walls of one modest home, a tension simmered, invisible to the casual passerby, yet all too real for those who understood the fragility of perception and prejudice. Marcus Williams, a decorated law enforcement officer, had just returned home after a routine patrol. His uniform was crisp, the badge glinting in the sunlight, his sidearm holstered according to regulation. To him, this was normal. To Karen Phillips, the homeowner 2 doors down, it was the spark that ignited an overreaction that would ripple across the neighborhood and social media alike. Marcus stepped onto his porch, taking a deep breath of the early evening air. The day had been long, but fulfilling another string of calls answered. Lives helped. Problems solved. He glanced down at his holstered firearm, a routine check every officer does, and adjusted his jacket. It was his duty, his shield, his symbol of commitment to service. What he couldn't anticipate was that this very symbol would transform into a weapon of assumption in someone else's mind. Across the street, Karen Phillips observed him from her bay window. Her eyes narrowed, lips pursed as she processed the sight of a black man, a visible firearm, and the badge that accompanied it. In that instant, her fear metastasized into a decision she would not retract. She would call the police. Her voice, tinged with anxiety and authority, whispered into her phone, painting a scene far more sinister than the reality unfolding outside her window. "There's a man with a gun. I don't know who he is. He looks threatening." The words, innocent in the mouth of someone convinced they were doing the right thing, carried the weight of centuries of misunderstanding and bias. For Marcus, the call that would transform an ordinary evening into a moment of national conversation had not yet come. He unlocked his door, unaware of the eyes following his every movement. Inside, the familiar smell of home welcomed him, the warmth of family, the comfort of routine. But this calm was about to fracture. In seconds, the shrill sound of sirens announced that the call had reached the nearest precinct. The response was swift, professional, and urgent. As officers interpreted the anonymous tip through a lens of caution and concern, the first patrol car rolled into the neighborhood. Lights flashing, engines cutting through the suburban quiet like a sharp knife. Marcus, still adjusting his jacket inside his home, heard the distant roar and glanced through his window. His heart sank momentarily as he recognized the code blue lights reflecting off the pavement. The very thing he had worn with pride, the badge, the gun, the uniform had, for a moment, become a liability in the eyes of a fearful neighbor. And then came the knock at the door. Marcus opened it slowly, his voice calm but firm. "Evening, officers," he said, his tone carrying the authority of experience without the bitterness of offense. He stepped aside, inviting them in, his badge and credentials visible. The officers, at first tense and alert, registered the legitimacy immediately. They scanned his uniform, checked his identification, and in that short span of moments, the story shifted. It had been a perceived threat, became a testament to dedication and service. Marcus's eyes met theirs, not with resentment for the misunderstanding, but with measured dignity. He understood fear, he understood caution, but he also understood the power of presence, preparation, and professionalism. Karen Phillips, from across the street, watched the scene unfold through her blinds. Her heart raced as she saw the truth materialize before her eyes. Marcus Williams, officer of the law, licensed and trained. The embodiment of responsibility and courage. The narrative she had constructed in her mind crumbled in real time, replaced with a bitter awareness of her own assumptions. It was a moment of reckoning, a personal confrontation with the biases that lurk unseen in ordinary lives. The officers, having confirmed Marcus's credentials, stepped back and, in a gesture that would be captured later by local media, saluted him. The salute was brief, respectful, a silent acknowledgement of his service and the absurdity of the false alarm that had brought them there. The story, however, did not end with that salute. Within the hours that followed, Marcus's experience began to circulate online. The narrative shared, debated, and reflected upon, Clips of the officer's salute, recorded by neighbors and quickly uploaded to social platforms, ignited a conversation about perception, fear, and respect. Marcus, for his part, responded with humility and grace. He spoke not of anger, but of awareness. "I don't fault anyone for fear," he said in an interview. "I do hope, however, that we all take a moment to reflect on our assumptions, to recognize the human behind the uniform, and to approach each situation with fairness and dignity." The incident, brief in duration, yet heavy in implication, became a microcosm of broader societal dynamics that black men navigate daily, particularly those in uniform or positions of authority. Marcus's story was not simply about a neighbor's fear. It was about history, perception, and the ongoing negotiation between identity and societal expectation. It was about pride in service and the courage to face bias with composure, transforming potential hostility into a teachable moment. In the weeks that followed, Marcus continued his duties with the same dedication as before. The neighborhood, initially abuzz with whispers and speculation, grew quieter, tempered by awareness and respect. Karen Phillips, confronted by the reality of her actions, reportedly took steps to engage in community conversations about bias and understanding. The salute, simple yet profound, remained a symbol not only of recognition for Marcus's service, but of the possibility for change. The fleeting yet impactful intersection of accountability, courage, and respect. As Marcus walked his beat in the days after the incident, he carried with him more than just the tools of his trade. He carried a story, a testament to resilience, a reminder that dignity is maintained not in the absence of misunderstanding, but through the grace with which it is met. The incident became part of his narrative, a chapter that he shared carefully, not to inflame division, but to inspire reflection and dialogue. Each encounter with community members became an opportunity to exemplify professionalism. Each interaction a chance to embody the values his uniform represented. By the time the video had circulated across social media platforms, viewers were divided, some outraged, some reflective, others inspired. Yet regardless of opinion, the core of the story resonated universally. Marcus Williams had faced an instant of potential conflict, a moment charged with fear and misunderstanding, and had emerged with composure, authority, and dignity intact. The officer's salute, captured in fleeting seconds, crystallized the essence of what had transpired, recognition not just of rank, but of the human experience, the delicate interplay of perception and reality, and the transformative power of integrity under pressure. In the days that followed, Marcus noticed a subtle shift in the neighborhood. Conversations that had once skirted the edges of civility now carried an undertone of reflection. Neighbors who had previously exchanged polite nods paused to offer genuine greetings, some even inquiring about his well-being. It was a quiet acknowledgement, a recognition that the world often moves to, quickly to allow moments of misunderstanding to become opportunities for learning. Marcus welcomed these gestures, not with pride or arrogance, but with the calm patience of someone who understood that trust is earned. It's not assumed. The media quickly picked up the story. Clips from the video circulated on news sites and social platforms, sometimes accompanied by commentary highlighting the stark contrast between perception and reality. Headlines ranged from shock and outrage to hope and reflection. It all converged on one undeniable truth. Marcus Williams had faced an instant of judgment, fueled by fear and assumption, and had responded with dignity and professionalism. The narrative became a touchpoint for broader discussions on race, policing, and the everyday challenges that black men navigate, especially those in uniform. Marcus was approached by journalists, community leaders, and activists alike. In each interaction, he remained measured, emphasizing not the fear he faced, but the lessons it offered. "It's not about shame or anger," he would say. "It's about understanding." We live in a society where assumptions can escalate quickly. My hope is that this story encourages reflection, encourages people to pause before reacting, to see the human being behind appearances. His words resonated, carrying a weight that went beyond the immediate incident. speaking to experiences many had endured silently for decades. Karen Phillips, confronted with her actions, became an unlikely participant in this dialogue. Initially defensive, she later expressed remorse, acknowledging that her fear had been shaped by biases she had never fully examined. Local reports indicated she engaged in community discussions, attended workshops on implicit bias, and sought ways to rebuild trust within the neighborhood. Her journey, though imperfect, underscored a critical aspect of the story: the potential for growth when accountability is met not with denial, but with reflection. In the police department, Marcus's colleagues celebrated him quietly, aware that his composure had prevented a situation from escalating unnecessarily. He became a symbol of professionalism under scrutiny, a reminder that courage is not always measured in confrontations with criminals, but in moments of judgment, misperception, and public misconception. The salute from his fellow officers, brief and ceremonial, has become an emblematic moment, not only for Marcus, but for the broader discourse on respect, service, and the nuanced reality of being a black man in America. Community leaders began to reference the incident in discussions about neighborhood safety, diversity, and the importance of understanding law enforcement roles. Marcus, always careful to separate his personal experience from systemic debates, spoke about the delicate balance officers maintain between vigilance and community relations. He emphasized training, awareness, and the need for empathy on all sides. His story became a case study, cited in local forums and workshops as an example of how fear, when unchecked, can escalate, and how dignity, when upheld, can transform conflict into education. Social media amplified the narrative, spreading it beyond the neighborhood to national and even international audiences. Viewers engaged in impassioned discussions, sharing their own experiences of misunderstanding and bias, reflecting on the lessons embedded in Marcus's story. Memes, commentary threads, and video reactions highlighted the emotional intensity of the moment, the shock of fear, the relief of recognition, and the pride and composure. Marcus watched these reactions with a mixture of humility and resolve. He did not seek validation or fame. He sought understanding. Yet he recognized the power of storytelling, and how one incident could catalyze dialogue and reflection across countless communities. Amidst the media storm, Marcus continued his personal life with a grounded focus. He spent time with his family, cherishing moments of quiet after long days on patrol. Yet even in the personal sphere, the incident lingered in subtle ways. Conversations at the dinner table, discussions in the car, on routine errands, reflections. During solitary walks, all were touched by the awareness of how fleeting moments can be misinterpreted, and how courage and dignity must be constants in the face of uncertainty. Marcus's children, observing their father, internalized lessons, not through lectures, but through example, the power of calm, measured response, and the quiet strength of integrity. The salute, recorded in those 42 seconds, became a visual metaphor for broader societal ideals, acknowledgement of service, recognition of human dignity, and the capacity for change when assumptions are confronted. It symbolized a fleeting moment of clarity, where fear yielded to respect and misunderstanding transformed into affirmation. Marcus, ever modest, considered it not as personal triumph, but as evidence that humanity can prevail, even in brief, intense encounters. It was a moment that reminded the world, however briefly, that civility, awareness, and empathy are more than abstract ideals. They are choices made in the span of seconds, choices that carry lasting impact. As the weeks turned to months, Marcus remained a respected figure within his community and department. Neighborhood events, previously mundane, now included invitations extended to him as a speaker or honored guest. His presence was no longer simply as an officer, but as a living example of resilience, reflection, and the transformative power of grace under scrutiny. He encouraged dialogue, mentorship, and engagement, fostering environments where questions could be asked, fears expressed, and understanding cultivated. His story became a bridge, connecting lived experiences with lessons on perception, bias, and dignity. For Karen Phillips and others who had witnessed the incident, the event catalyzed a reckoning with their own assumptions. Workshops, community, forums, and conversations arose not from hostility, but from curiosity and accountability. The neighborhood slowly transformed, informed not by fear of a single black man with a gun and badge, but by awareness of the consequences of unchecked assumptions. Marcus's calmness, his professionalism, and his unwavering dignity became a template for constructive engagement, an example of how one individual's integrity can ripple outward, influencing many. Ultimately, the story of Marcus Williams is one that transcends a single day, a single misunderstanding, or a single salute. It speaks to the enduring tension between fear and knowledge, perception and reality, and the capacity of human beings to navigate these tensions with courage, grace, and resolve. It reminds us that dignity is maintained not in the absence of challenge, but in the way challenge is met with composure, accountability, and the quiet strength of self-respect, and in a society often divided by assumptions, biases, and fleeting judgments. Marcus's story stands as a testament to the power of presence, the importance of reflection, and the enduring impact of choosing integrity over reaction in the final analysis. The incident was brief, lasting mere moments, yet the implications stretched far beyond those 42 seconds. Marcus's experience became a narrative of hope, resilience, an education, a story told and retold, not for sensationalism, but for its capacity to illuminate the human experience. It reinforced the idea that moments of fear, misunderstanding, or judgment can be transformed into lessons in empathy and respect. And as Marcus continued his journey, badge gleaming, firearm holstered, and dignity intact, he embodied a truth often overlooked, that courage is measured not only in acts of bravery, but in the ability to face misperception with grace, to uphold principles under scrutiny, and to remind the world that dignity, once claimed and held, cannot be taken by fear or assumption.